Today is Tuesday, December 12th, AD 2023. This is the Africa Review in 5, written by Mark Christopher and presented by Amikani Katunga. Up in Smoke, exposing the smog of pro-pot logic. It's been said that the first casualty of war is truth. Many confuse the issue of cannabis, also known as dagga, by co-mingling two different aspects of the debate, medical versus recreational use of marijuana. In truth, while related, these are two separate ethical issues that Christians need to approach differently. Ever since the U.S. states of Colorado and Washington legalized the recreational use of dagga, there has been major pressure from the world's media and pro-pot advocates to push for legalization of the wizard weed for more than medicinal purposes. In part, the issue came to the fore here in South Africa when IFP MP Mario Oriana Ambrosini, who has stage 4 lung cancer, told Parliament he uses dagga oil for its palliative properties to help him manage the ill effects of his treatments. South Africa legalized dagga in 2018 based on truncated logic and blatant propaganda trotted out in hubbly-bubbly fashion to portray cannabis as a Peter Pan panacea. It's the same old, worn-out arguments that have been in vogue since the 1960s, when the culture took Timothy Leary's advice to turn on, tune in, and drop out. Sadly, many who took Leary's advice failed to ever surface back to reality. Here are 3 of the many flawed arguments based on smokescreen logic that are used by the pro-pot lobby to convince the public of the benefits of recreational dagga. First, they say public opinion has shifted dramatically in favor of legalizing dagga. But is this really a compelling reason to swing the gates wide open and legalize dagga? If public opinion overwhelmingly decides that laws related to reckless driving and speeding are archaic and ineffective, should lawmakers throw up their hands in defeat and concede to public sentiment? Of course not. The government's role, as laid out in Romans 13, is to preserve law and order in a way that promotes conditions for human flourishing. According to the National Library of Medicine, there is a correlation between marijuana use and increased hostile behaviors or perceptions of hostility in others. This is exactly the kind of behavior that the government should be protecting its citizens from. Second, they say smoking dagga is no worse than smoking cigarettes or drinking coffee. Such logic is stratospherically stupefying. Cannabis is well documented to promote numerous negative side effects. Some short-term, some lasting. Memory impairment and cognitive function for starters, as it induces speech impediments, dulls thinking, limits knowledge retention, affects problem solving, and hampers complex motor skills, all of which is hardly the recipe to promote safe, responsible drivers, innovative thinking, or productive workers. In a small percentage of cases, dagga produces psychotic responses, like when 19-year-old Levi Tamba, who was visiting friends in Colorado, ate a cookie laced with dagga. He went berserk and leapt off the balcony to his death. This is a far cry from the sobriety of mind that God calls us to in 1 Peter 5 verse 8. In short, let me ask you this. Would you rather board an airplane knowing that the pilot just smoked a cigarette and drank 2 cups of coffee, or that he just toked 2 reefers? Which scenario would make you feel more comfortable as that plane barrels down the runway for takeoff? Third, they say legalizing dagga will reduce social costs. No doubt, crime-fighting related costs could be reduced, but this will be offset by expenses related to enforcing government regulations that legalization will require. Then, when one calculates the price tag placed on the social consequences of legal dagga, dagga-related crime, drugged driving, welfare costs associated with familial breakdown, and the cost of state-sponsored rehab for the legion of new addicts. The tax revenues harvested from this new cash crop will hardly cover society's THC-induced coma. Can we really afford the unstated, unintended fallout from the recreational uses of this drug? While a case can be made for the therapeutic and industrial benefits of dagga, it must be acknowledged that the pro-pot forces use medicinal marijuana as a backdoor entrance to recreational legalization. It has become a THC Trojan horse for dishonest proponents of weed. My home state of California legalized medicinal dagga in 1996. According to my many law enforcement friends in that state, the laws surrounding the implementation of medical marijuana are so porous and poorly enforced that California has no need to legalize pot for recreational purposes. Californians already enjoy recreational use of dagga by default of medical marijuana. The sum of pro-pot logic amounts to placing a large red juicy apple in a barrel of rotten apples and hoping for the rottenness to be reversed. The result of this equation is really quite predictable. As Christians, we must remember, not only are we called to be discerning by holding the arguments of the age against the high bar that the Bible sets, but we as believers are also called to be holy, not high. And that's it for the Africa Review in 5 on this Tuesday, December 12th, in the year of our Lord 2023. Subscribe to the Missionary Minds podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I'm Yamikani Katunga. Be not weary in well-doing.